Can you imagine ignoring these two guests?
Well, you are to this point.
Yeah, but it's going to come back and bite me.
Can we introduce them now? That would be the president of the Board of Education in Berkeley County, Jackee Long. Jackee, good morning.
Good morning.
You brought treats with you today, too, right? Cannoli.
Ooh,
look at that.
Call with the Italians.
Are you still on your diet there, John?
I am. I'm down 7 pounds.
Just
I've had no sweets at all.
Eliminating sugar.
Just eliminating sugar, and I've been walking 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day.
Very nice. Also, Melissa Power. She is the vice president of the BOE. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. I have cannoli.
You have cannoli.
Can I ask a question first?
Could I stop you if I wanted to?
No, not at all. Not at all. Did you ladies feel ignored initially?
No.
And should we? Good, so we don't have to apologize, Rob. No. We wouldn't have anyway, so.
I figured as much.
Hey, a couple
We're
questions.
trying to be good.
So first and foremost, I'm getting texts and people asking me, what's the story with Luke Samples at Spring Mills High School? Can you tell us anything about that situation, Melissa or Jackee?
No. Actually, that's a personnel issue, and we don't get into those personnel issues.
See, now that's been my response to every person that's asked me that. So will you please ask them? And I say, I'm going to ask them, but they're going to tell me, no, I can't comment. It's a personnel issue. So go ahead.
Well, it's a personnel issue, and we can't comment until something comes before us so we can act on. If we know what's going on now, we would be biased to a situation. So we
Stay out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. I fulfilled my duty.
Well,
people ask me to ask.
Where's the old-fashioned gossip that we used to realize?
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable.
Let me tell you
There's
about
a lot of
gossip with you all. Remember the cyber attack?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you all just whipped us up one side down
Not.
the
I
other.
think, I think you
when you
blame
say
me.
you all, do you mean any particular person
Yes,
in general?
that one right there. Big Bill. Tesla Bill.
Yeah.
Tesla Bill.
That strained our friendship, as I remember it.
Yes, it did.
See, she still hasn't gotten over it.
Tesla Bill needs to make it into your little thing that you do on
The
Fridays.
intro?
Yes.
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 And
we need to do
it would be Tesla Bill, by the way.
Tesla.
Tesla.
We kept
Tesla Bill.
telling you, we told you everything you could, and you too,
That
Rob.
wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't believe it.
It was the Russians.
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Just make it.
Hey, you have a meeting tomorrow night, and you'll be addressing the budget at that meeting.
Yes.
What stage are you in with your budget?
Draft.
Planning.
Is that the earliest stage of the budget?
One of the earliest.
Yeah.
One of the earliest. I know that we were presented with some information about a month ago, Jackee.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are desired for next year, whether adjustments to what we have in place or additions or subtractions. And then we come together again, tomorrow or, because today's Tuesday. Days are starting to blur together. But, we'll get together tomorrow. We'll have more conversations and then probably have another conversation and vote.
What is the size of the Board of Education budget for Berkeley County?
It was $299 million. I'm not.
Last year was $299 million.
Yeah.
Does that include all sources of funding?
Yes.
Did you guys purposely try to keep it under 300? Did you guys,
No,
cut
it just
paper
worked out
towels or
that way.
something?
No, it just happened that way.
Toilet paper, John. That's all.
Toilet paper. They cut toilet paper.
And we, there are budget items that have to be added in there, and then the board has, all the board members have wishes that we would like to add into the budget that we feel are very important.
When is your budget due?
It has to be to the Department of Ed by May 1st.
May 1. So let me ask you this question here. How do you plan for a budget when you're not really sure what the federal dollar situation is going to be?
It's difficult.
In certain ways, it's a little scary.
It's not a little scary. It's a lot scary.
I'm saying a little scary because I don't.
She doesn't want to panic.
There's a lot of little
wanna-
scaries going
Should
on
we go
right
in
now.
the middle and go sort of scary?
Yeah, sort of.
All
Well,
right.
because you don't
know.
You don't know.
We don't know what's going to happen.
We have no idea.
If we had more of an idea or framework that would be considered, either by the feds or by the state, it would help us. So.
Well, if the state would just get off its butt and pass some locality pay where we could keep the great teachers that we have. So many just leave and go other places. We are, and I've said this before, we're the Pittsburgh Pirates of education. We get young people, we train them, they become great, and then they go somewhere else for the money.
What I will say is all of our local legislators have heard us, have seen us, have talked with teachers and other staff members, and they are trying to figure out what
Which
they
they
can get
have
done
for
down there.
years.
Oh,
but
without a
Without doubt.
doubt.
Yeah.
They're
And
great.
And there's I think even recently in the last couple of years, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, there's been increased conversations that we've had with them.
And I think that is because, and I remember Senator Barrett saying this last year or year before that, it's the way you frame it to be able to include other counties to make sure that they're getting a little piece of the pie some way.
What do you anticipate your growth in the budget to be for the next year?
I don't know if there'll be much growth or not.
I was going to say I don't know what
I
that
think
would
it would be pretty.
You talking about growth in dollars or in enrollment?
Dollars.
I think
Okay.
If you were $2.99 this year, is it natural to be at $3.02 next year?
Well,
is there
we
1% growth, 3% growth
we
typically?
have to add 65 third grade aides.
Mm-hmm.
So that will increase our budget.
And
What does an aide get paid?
It's around 20,000, 25,000. Depends on their degree level. A lot of them have degrees. If they don't, they have early childhood certification, or they have an associate degree, or some of them have degrees and they just don't want to be a teacher. So it depends on their grade level.
The aide gets 20,000.
It must be tough to find
it's-
somebody with a
it's-
degree to work for
That's what
20,000.
gets
20,000, 25,000.
Yeah.
That's a starting. As you go up in years, and then they get paid for
extra duties.
extra
stuff, yeah.
duty. They get paid for
Is that a
diapering, toileting.
is that like a 20-hour a
supervisory.
week job? It's not 40 hours a week,
No,
is
it's
it?
about
It's a
it's
full-time
35
job.
hours a week.
20 couple
Well,
$1,000s. Why would
so
anyone
is it-
take that job?
It's about 24,000, 25.
Is the diapering and stuff, is that like on a commission basis?
No, it's
I mean, is it like,
it's a
well,
supple-
I
it's a
took
supplement.
12 kids to the bathroom last week. It's $7
No.
per. Do I get $84?
It's a
or-
supplement like giving medication, supervisory. If you're supervisory aide, which all our aides are,
That makes sense.
and ECATs, early childhood classroom teacher assistants, they're paid higher. So and we have many of those. So
And to answer Rob's question, why would anybody take that job? It's because they're passionate about kids. They're passionate about education. They just don't necessarily want the responsibility of trying to do lesson plans and some of those other duties that teachers have that might not be something that the teacher's aide
Well,
would have to worry about.
and not to cut you off before I forget.
At least I'm not cutting you off. You're the one cutting me off.
Today. We used to always say, well, the benefits are great. And the benefits still are great.
Well, the pension. I mean,
The pension,
the
if
key
you
is,
stay
I
long
mean,
enough.
everybody who works a job around here, 95% of people don't have a pension.
Yeah.
Teachers are underpaid, but when they get done, they keep getting paid. I mean, that on the back end, it looks great. And I said something to the state education, the union president. I said, what if teachers were given the option of not having the pension, but getting, $25,000 a year more now with no pension, just a 401k like everybody else has? He said, oh, nobody would want that.
Well, we did that. Remember, we did that. There's the old system, the old system, the old new system, and the new system. So yeah, we did. We already been that route, and
It just-
Are you
everybody
confused
went
yet?
back.
I'm confused, but I'm just thinking that there are a lot of people who would rather. There are a lot of people who are looking for what today is. They're not looking at 30 years down the road. And I mean, if we were able to pay them, $20,000 a year more in exchange for not having a pension, I don't think that would be that bad a thing. They'd be
Well-
responsible for their retirement, just like I am, just like most people are.
Anybody after, I think the year was 2009 or 10, are in the stock market.
They're in the 403B.
They're in that situation. So
I think the other thing too is I had that where I didn't have
Right.
any incentive to join in a retirement plan. So I had that front end look at stuff. Now that I'm older, a little wiser,
You're young.
But I'm also 43. So while I might look young,
I thought you
am-
were. Yeah, I didn't think you were that old.
I'm 43, and I've got two children that
Which
are.
is-
I've got an almost 18-year-old. He's looking in military, and I've got a daughter who's getting her ECAT and working as a pre-K aide with Head Start and as a substitute pre-K aide. So I mean, she's getting it.
awesome.
She's getting it. But the thing is that I'm sitting there looking at that and I'm going, okay, I'm closer to retirement than I've ever been, and I don't have a lot stocked up. So I'm gonna have to probably work longer than what the typical
Right.
person might. So that's
the way to look.
something
Yeah.
that's something that I wish I had understood when I
Right.
was younger. So I'd rather have I wish I had done things differently. when I
Off
was
the
younger.
off the budgeting stuff for a moment here. I want to talk about discipline bills. Senator Grady's working on one that may be getting through soon for governor's signature. Have you been tracking this? And
Yes.
have you been able to give any input in regards to the discipline bills?
To our delegates and senators, and then last year I had some conversation with Senator Grady, and I know Dr. Sachs does. So
What would you be looking for in a discipline bill that would be something that would be okay with the Board of Education and enforceable at the classroom level?
just to be able, well, I will say this: one of the things on my wish list for the budget is to implement in-school suspension aids in all of our intermediate schools. We last year we got one, and the year before we had one. So things like that we can discipline kids without sending them home to me, and take that out of the classroom, and just for these kids to know that, oh, okay, they can't act up because they want to go home. They're going down the hall for a couple
Now,
hours during the day.
what would an aide do? That type of aide, that would be a very demanding job. But while they're in suspension, are they in a heavy educational environment,
Yes.
heavy discipline
Yes.
environment? What's going to be the emphasis while they're in suspension?
It would be education primarily. The environment looks different because you don't have the typical classroom that's being done. It adjusts it. There's increased boundaries. So if you've got boundaries in the classroom and they keep then getting violated, it's kind of like when you're at home. If you do something at home that's not great and you're exceeding those boundaries, you tighten them up.
Well, and
on a
those
given
kids,
condition, on a given incident, how many kids would be in there?
3 or 4.
3 or
Yeah.
4. So you're not talking about
No.
15,
No,
20,
and
or
their
30.
classwork sent with them, and the teacher checks that aide or whoever. It could be a teacher that will be put in there, because we've had teachers in ISS rooms, but mostly their service. They work together, especially if the child's going to be in there all day, because it's not a play period. Some of these kids think they're going to ISS, and it's, oh, yahoo, I'm out of class. Well, no.
Now, the Senator Grady's bill, is that all 12, K through 12, or is
No.
it,
No.
it emphasizes which grade level?
I thought it was
K through 6.
K through six, okay.
And I actually messaged Senator Grady thanking her for all of her hard work on this, because I think her bill brings in common sense to some of this stuff, because it's very hard.
Let's give an example, the ones that have not followed the bill that closely.
Yeah, so this bill actually provides the ability to consider the child. It's not just a flat out, you came in and you smacked, Johnny smacked Susie. We might need to have a different conversation. We're going to develop a behavior plan, and we're going to look at that for a couple of weeks. If that behavior plan isn't working, then we either adjust or we say that the child needs further. Maybe it's assessments by other professionals, whether it's psychiatric, a medical doctor, whatever that looks like. So it brings in more integrative efforts with the family as well as with our school system. And if that still isn't working, then there's other considerations that need to be made.
placement.
So it actually gives a step process, but it gives a step process that it's actually a framework. It's a game plan of what we can do with kids that are, having some extra behaviors.
Are the dollars attached to, are the dollars associated with Senator Grady's bill?
I didn't
No.
see any
So
dollars
it's going to
with
be,
it.
everything that's been suggested is going to have to come out of the current school budget.
I think think that what's in her bill is very, very similar to what we do with the CARES Academy.
Yes.
And there's there's a few other of those academies or whatever they're called across the state.
It makes it broader instead of single school
it,
or whatever.
It implements the what the child's issues actually are. If it's because there's a social worker, not particularly in this bill, but there's a social worker assigned to them, a mental health, a psychologist, so on and so forth, to see what these kids' issues really are.
So Berkeley County has something in place already that may satisfy much of what
Similar.
Senator Grady is doing.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to see a additional cost. Most of the counties do not have a CARES program, do they?
I think there's 5 counties
That have
or
it.
8.
most
So,
counties do not.
so about
Yes.
50 counties do not. I'm coming back to this unfunded mandate. As good as a program may be, there's got to be ways to implement. And right now, there is nothing that would help the counties. If they have a CARES program in place, great, they'll be able to transform and meet Senator Grady's objectives. If not, though, do we have a problem? Is there been more of a problem with the state?
Well,
I think
when you don't fund something, there's always
Well, and a lot of the smaller counties have much smaller student to teacher ratios.
Yes.
Correct.
Also.
But they
Correct.
still have the discipline problem, I think, John.
Well, no, they have the discipline problem. I'm just saying they have more flexibility of staff, I believe. But you also, I mean, and I love this idea because I think the idea of out-of-school suspension is ludicrous because all you're doing is sending the kid home to watch
Right.
TV.
and ultimately that's sometimes exactly what they want.
yeah.
Well, no,
that's what
yeah.
why
It's
they
more
try
of
to
an
get out of
yeah, it's
class.
more
Incentive.
it's an incentive
Yeah.
to act badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they know, if I act badly, I'm going to have to go sit there without my friends all day.
Yeah.
That's a better alternative.
I think we are in an atmosphere where we currently have one school that has the CARES Academy. We've just reallocated, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jackee, from a one school perspective, we reallocated where we might have had behavioral classrooms. Instead of that, we've got the CARES Academy that allows there to be some help, some additional supports. We've just reallocated it. However, if we're looking at it from a county perspective, will there be extra costs? I would say yes, but I don't know how much that would look like. We also have to keep in mind that our special education program is not at all funded the way that it needs to be. And it breeds into a lot of other, we have more teachers than what, the state student formula but pays for. So like there's so many things compounded for Berkeley County. I think to take into to blanketly say that there's no funding behind it. I think for some small counties it might not necessarily be as traumatic to their budget versus ours. It's compounding a continuing issue that bleeds into everything that we talk about.
What are the
Because we're
various
so
sources
over-formula.
for special education teacher funding?
Federal.
Is that all federal?
Majority.
And what percentage of it, if any, is local or state?
Only thing I know is what the pie chart for federal dollars. I think it's about 40%.
And that's majority special education.
34%. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you? We started with this. I'll come back to it. How do you?
Yeah, he would be able to
When
explain
you
it a lot
work when
better.
you work on your budget, not knowing what the federal input will be, will you just assume it's the same as it was this past financial year for the school system as you're calculating what you need teacher-wise for special education students?
I think you would have to. Our federal dollars are $27 million.
I don't know
Most
how.
28.
I don't know how we don't.
Yeah.
I use some level of foundation, and we use what has always been.
Skating on the same subject, there's a lot of talk about abolishing the Board of Education at the national level. Well, they're abolishing then what they're doing.
You mean the
National-
Department of
The
Education?
Department of
I knew
Education.
Board
Yes.
Bureau,
Yeah.
Department of Education. Sorry. What is your view of that? Is it going to impact us on the state level, or do you know?
possible block grants would go to the state.
Yeah.
State would distribute it to the districts. More local control.
Which would probably benefit us, being given the size of our county, the size of our school system. It would probably benefit us.
I think
have
there'd be
no
less
idea.
federal mandates, but I don't know how. I don't know how it would affect us.
I don't know. There's a side of me that sits there and goes, okay, we might get more, because our size and what we're dealing with. But then the other part is, politics can play can play dirty.
Well, yeah, and
So-
the other part of it is, I mean, if you look at the amount of money that comes into Berkeley County that goes to Charleston, and less money comes back, it could be the same thing with stuff like that.
It's a concern.
I mean, it is. I mean, I just want to say something very quickly. I love the school system, and we just need to figure out a way to pay teachers. Because I've got so
Yeah.
many
No.
teacher friends
Well,
of mine who no
employees.
longer teach
Well,
in Berkeley
employees,
County.
period.
Employees,
and
yes.
that's one of the reasons why this, this past year we really tried to figure out what we could do that was a little bit extra. What could we grab onto that could help in any way? And we were able to, with the housing allowance, increase that. Is it as great as what we would want it to be? No. Ideally, we'd want it attached as a salary because then it would be
Go into
permanent, right?
retirement.
Right.
However, we can't do that. We can't say that it's absolutely going to be that way every single year. And that's one of the conversations we'll probably have with the budget is, can we continue to do that level of housing allowance?
Well,
and I'm hoping
Do you
we
think
can.
if they abolish the Department of Education and it's block granted, do you think there's a way at some point in West Virginia there'll be less control by the state over the individual school boards, where you would have more?
30 seconds.
And that's
Answer
an
the-
answer is no, because the state will
say-
keep control.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say.
the state's gonna. Yeah, you've got the Department of Education that is not underneath anything. They don't answer to the legislature. They don't answer to anybody.
Yeah, that was voted down at the ballot
Correct.
box
Correct.
before. Hey, thanks to both of you for coming in.
Yes.
Jackee Long, Melissa Power. For
Thank
the
you
cannoli.
for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the cannoli, even though I'm not going to partake.